Well, we are ready with our hedgehog to put on the details for the face. But I'm gonna, since I did most of this color off camera, I'm gonna just do the last leg with you. So, because I realized, I just wanna remind you that I'm adding the color section by section. So here I am gonna add it just for the leg. And the reason I like to do it that way is it really helps not to lose the definition that I've created and actually help build it up even more. So I'm actually, when I add this color, it's like building up another layer like of core wool, and so I'm going to continue to sculpt the shape as I add the color. So I just want to remind you about that. I'll also show you one other thing with this shaded paw. So if you've done other projects with me, like the hoofs, there's a video on doing hoofs, and that's defined all the way around. And we're going to do something here that's a little different. I want to make this line defined around the edge of the paw, define it between the edge of the paw and the belly, but then have it blended up the leg. So we're doing a little bit of both. So I'm going to take a little smidge of this color, and I'm going to do first around the edge of the paw. Once I get all the base color on, I'm doing so in order to get this part to be more defined, I am angling my needle in toward the paw. You always angle the needle toward the color that you're adding if you're trying to make it really defined. And then I'm going to pull a little bit of this off to make it even wispier. So I want this part, like I said, between the belly and the paw defined, and then I want to make it a little more of a gradient and subtle between the edge of the paw and going up the leg. So you can see that I'm doing exactly the opposite. I'm kind of angling the needle toward the old color. And if I'm not, I can just keep adding tiny little wisps. You see that it's like a little more color here than here. I'm gonna add a little wisp right there. And I can build up the color more on this defined edge to get it more concentrated. Because if I'm adding little wisps of color, it's not going to be the full saturation. And I can build it up to make it more saturated. Okay, so that's how I did these 4 legs. I'm going to take off my watch because it seems to be clunking around the table today. So now we're going to do the face. So probably could have done this earlier, mark the eyes when we were doing the snout. But I'm going to take, actually maybe I want a thicker needle. Switch to the orange or the blue needle to make little indents for where I want the eyes to go. And they're going to go right above that snout. You see some of these, they're all a little bit different, and you can try. This is why everybody kind of will come up with something that looks like their own version of this, and you might add a little more of your own personality and style to this. I'm just giving you the basics, where to put the eye, and then the nose will go here. So I'm going to switch back to my purple needle. This clay handle is working pretty well. Some of the others that I have that aren't quite as dry, this one I made last week. This one's working really well. The mushy ones aren't, they kind of just fall apart if they're still mushy when you're being aggressive with it. Anyway, so I'm gonna do what I would do with eyes, which is to take little bits of wool ahead of time. And I'm not rolling these in balls because you know, that's going to be all I do. I'm doing this actually just to make sure that I have about the same amount of wool. And I think, as I've mentioned, that even when you have the same amount of wool, you still have to felt them the same to keep them the same. So you may still have to make adjustments. Even when you have the same amount of wool, if you poke it in too much, you may still have to add. So I'm going to take my needle, and because I want a really defined edge on this, I'm going to go on that angle around the edge all the way around. And if this was mushy, it would just poke right in and disappear. So just make sure your face is nice and firm before you start adding these kind of details. So I'm going around, I'm going to keep these eyes very simple and round. And they're just going to be the black with a little white highlight. And so that one looks pretty cute. So you saw I did the edge, and then I want to poke it all around. You don't want poof of wool in the middle of the eye. You want to get it all around, but just keep changing the angle so that you keep this from getting to be a little flat disc on there. You see this eye actually came out a little bit oval and tilted down, which I think is cute. It's almost like a panda eye, but I'm going to leave it like that and see if I can do the other one the same. But most of these, this one was round, and then I flattened the bottom along the nose, and then these are more just round. So any of the above works. It is helpful to try to get them symmetrical. So whatever you've done on one side, try to see if you can get it the same. This is probably what, as a beginner, you'll spend the most time with, is going back and forth with your two eyes to get them the same. And in live class, I can help you a little bit, hopefully, give you some advice about how to adjust. But see, even I just did that. I don't know if it was less wool or just poked it in harder, but that needs a little more. You could see that I have, this eye is bigger than that one. And I'm going to add a little more wool, get this one adjusted. And that's what I love about this craft, is that you can always make adjustments. So I can always make something bigger or smaller. I'm repeating myself, I know, but just in case I haven't said it in a little while, if you want to make something bigger, you add more wool and you felt it down. And if you want to make something smaller, you just keep felting it down. It's a very rare instance where you'd want to actually rip something off. If you really decide you completely want to go a different direction, you can try to pull something off, but it's not always possible. All right, so the nose now, I think I got those eyes about the same. I'm going to add the highlight later. I'm going to first do the nose now. I like just a really cute round nose on these hedgehogs. You can look at pictures of hedgehogs and do something a little more realistic. That's why I included the pink. This probably would look cute to put a little pink there, but I'm going to do the black nose, and maybe we'll do the pink, we'll do a little pink mouth, which I've never done before on this, but let's just try that and see how that goes. So I'm going to do a little more black, and I still don't have to felt it beforehand. I stick it on there, and I'm going to really, because I want this to be three-dimensional, I'm really going to go underneath that, tack it in, and then form this ball right up there. Let's see what I'm doing. I'm keeping that three-dimensional, right? Because if I, like, again, if I just poked down, it wouldn't be very defined and it would get flat. So I'm being careful to keep this round shape of this nose as I felt it in there. And if it got really flat or too small, I can always add more wool. And you can see from the, well, we'll do the fox face separately. But the fox, I did more of a triangular nose. Giving this guy a little round nose. These are so fun to do. They're so cute. Okay. So that's still a little poofy. I'm hoping I'm like really within the frame here. I should be checking. Whoa! Let me stand up. Okay, sorry about that. Stand up and make sure you're seeing what I'm doing. So I'm continuing to move this all around. Let's not forget our ergonomics, that we want to move the wool and keep our arm in the most comfortable position. And so want to continue to keep that. Okay, so I think we're ready. We can use, again, I would go to either the orange or a blue needle. I don't think this one's quite dry yet, to sculpt a little face. I've been for these mostly just doing the little, just putting in a little mouth with with a groove. So you see I'm just poking a little harder with a little heavier needle to get a groove in there. And then I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try to use this. This is kind of this dusty brownish pink. That is a nice subtle color. You could do like a pink, but I think this looks more natural. So I'm just going to use a little bit of this and poke it in there for a mouth. Let's see how that looks. So again, for a fine line, I'm going to go along one side of the line and then along the other side of the line to get a nice, really defined, smooth line. And I didn't have quite enough of that, so I'm going to grab another little pinch, put a little bit more over here and poke that in. See, what's also nice with this is that the felting, you can, this is all so many little strands of hair and wool, but it all blends seamlessly together. So it doesn't matter if you have to add a little bit. You can still get it to look like it's all one cohesive thing. And it's fun to experiment with stuff like this. If I put this mouth in and I really hate it, I can rip it out. But I think that's cute. It'd be a nice change to have a little mouth. That subtle, very subtle pink. Okay, so I'm gonna add the highlights to the eye right now. This is actually the sand. It's kind of hard to tell the difference between the sand and the white. Just take a little smidge of your core wool, really tiny little bits of core wool. And this I do like to roll up in my finger to make sure it's not too big. And sometimes it looks cute to have a bigger white highlight. And sometimes this will just, see how that just disappeared because these eyes weren't that well felted to begin with. So I'm gonna add another piece. That's okay. Adding this will help me firm up my eye. Okay, so that one looks cute. I'm gonna do another one on the other side. So for these eyes, I'm thinking the eyes are on the front of the head. So when I'm on the front of the head, I do the upper right. You could do the upper left, but I do the upper right on both or the upper left on both. Whereas animals that have the eyes on opposite sides of their head, I do mirror image. But for this, we want to have the light coming from the same direction, so we put it in the same spot on both eyes. Again, just like we wanted the eyes even, we want these highlights to be pretty even too. All right, so that's pretty good. I'm gonna continue in this video. Actually, let's stop here and have the ears be a separate video. I'm gonna do the ears next and then the hair.